I've been excited to talk to you guys all day today. I cannot believe that we are 5 weeks into this. So let's go ahead and jump on the scale and see how you guys did last week.
ATM time is 2:45.80.
Weigh in for Anisha.
206.4 pounds.
Two 13.6, 13.6, Scholar 13.6.
Emily 144.8.
Amber 164.6.
Iris Alvarado.
I have some standings. In 9th place, down 10 pounds, 2.8%, Nakia. In 8th place, down 4.8 pounds, 2.83%, Amber. In 7th place, down 7 pounds, 3.17%, Scholar. In 6th place, down 8.6 pounds, 3.94%, Nisha. In 5th place, down 8.4 pounds, 4.02%, Bev. In 4th place, down 12.1 pounds, 4.7%, ATN. In 3rd place, down 15.5 pounds, 6.55%, Iris. In 2nd place, down 12.8 pounds, 8.12%, Emily. In 1st place, down 20.8 pounds, 9.15%, Bret. Total this week as a group in the last 5 weeks, you guys are down 100 pounds. 100 pounds gone, never to be seen again, which is awesome and amazing. And, you know, it really is great. And, you know, what you guys are doing, what you've really got to realize is this: you're not just doing another diet. You're not just doing another fad where you're going to lose the weight and then go gain it all back. You're doing this program where we attack the foundation of what made us overweight. We attack your habits and we attack the way you think. Because if we can change your habits and we can change the way you think, then we can change your health forever. This wouldn't be just another fad diet. This wouldn't be just another get quick result thing. This wouldn't be another, I did that thing that one time and I lost weight and then I gained it all back. And so tonight is really pivotal for that. Because in order, again, the difference between people who succeed and the people that don't is the way they think. People who succeed think differently than people who don't. And part of that thinking, the way most of us think, is a reflection of other people's opinions. It's a reflection of what other people have said to us. Unfortunately, most of the world, and I can only talk on this because I was that person for a long time, I was always so concerned what everybody else thought about me. I am a recovering, reformed, people pleaser. Like I would totally do things just to please other people, or I would not do things to please other people. I would do so much for everybody else, making myself last, that most certainly was part of the reason why I wound up in the position that I was in, is because I put everybody else first and I made myself last. And so when you do that and your cup is empty and you have no time for yourself and you're not making time for yourself and you're lacking boundaries and you're people pleasing on top of that, and you're caring far more about what other people think than what you think, that is a recipe for misery. That is a recipe for depression. That is a recipe for winding up, taking all your goals and all your dreams to the grave with you, is living for what other people think. And so we've got to get to a place where we start caring more about what we think than what everybody else thinks, where our opinion of ourselves matters more than what anybody else would say about us. And so to focus on the future, one of the things that we've got to do is we've got to get over the past. And the way most people try to get over the past is they try to just cover it up. Okay. So I want you to imagine, Emily, your dog comes in the house and your dog craps on the floor. And the way you're going to try to get over it, the way you're going to try to get rid of the crap is you're just going to take a rug and cover it up so nobody can see it. Okay. Now, in the short term, it might appear clean. It might appear like there's no caca. It might appear like there's no crap. But every time, but eventually the crap under the rug is going to still what? It's going to still stink. Now I want you to imagine your dog's a big crapper and he keeps crapping these big old piles of poop. And every time he does it, you take the rug and you cover it up. And so before we know it, we've got this really stinky living room because we never got rid of the crap. We never cleaned out the crap. We never threw away the crap. We simply covered it up the entire time. And then we wonder why we have this stinky life. We have stinking thinking. We have all this stuff going on. We have all this junk in our trunk because we never got rid of it. We never got rid of it. And so you've got to get rid of the crap to keep it from stinking. And it's the same thing in your life. You can't. So often when somebody says something, when we experience something that hurts us, when we go through an experience that we don't like, most people don't deal with it. We simply shut it down, we cover it up, and we move on. And we pretend, we put on the pretend face like this doesn't bother me. I'm happy, I'm confident, I've got it all together. And then we deal with these insecurities inside. And we put up a hedge of protection. And if we're not careful, our weight can end up becoming also protection. But it started way back when we first covered up the pile of crap with the rug, when we didn't deal with it. And we convince ourselves that not dealing with it, covering up the crap is easier, it's less painful than actually dealing with it. And it might be in the short term, it might be in the moment. But long term, is it really less painful? Because when you don't deal with it, when we keep it in darkness, it controls us. We're never free from it. We take it on. We repeat it to ourselves. It becomes part of our identity in some cases. And so it's impossible to move into the future if we're still looking at the past. It's impossible to build this bright future with a bunch of crap buried in our living room. We've got to let go of the past to move into the future. And again, many people think that letting go. We're going to go through the list. And this week, Scholar, you're going to be first.
Thank you for sharing this session because, to be honest, this was a very hard exercise to me. Like, I honestly came up with the list on Saturday when I was flying back. And one thing I've come to realize, I'm the person who buries things deep within and pretend that they don't exist while they still exist. So I just went as back as 2017, which is when I started like really struggling with my weight. But I promise to go back all the way to childhood and remember all the things I've buried and take out all the skeletons. I don't need to have that heaviness in me anymore. But when I was just writing this, I just realized more of it is on me, my thoughts, what I think about myself and what I tell myself. But just to share a few things that came up to my mind about what others not necessarily have said, but treated me in a way ever since I started gaining weight. I remember some friends of mine went to a party somewhere and I didn't go to the party. Then one of them called me and these were her words. "Oh my God, how big have you become?" So-and-so was telling us that you become so big. And so that made me mad, and I felt so hard because my friends were at a party. Instead of enjoying their party and everything, they had time to discuss about me and in a not so positive light. And then the other one I remember also, I've always been the skinny girl, 125 until maybe 7 years ago with all my friends. And so I had a friend of mine who was over like 200 pounds. And so we went to a wedding in 2019, and then she said we take a picture together. And then the next day she posted the picture. So she took a picture, I think from like 2013 when I was skinny and she wasn't. And now 2019, she's skinny and I'm not. And then she just put TBT, and it had nothing to do with the wedding. So I felt some kind of way about that. I did not actually talk to her about it, and I assumed it. And that's something I buried. But now looking back at it right now, it's something that really hurt me a lot. So I think the other thing I remember is a really close friend of mine, and what actually triggered me, and I actually cried writing this down yesterday on Sunday, is because her husband is way bigger than me, almost 300 pounds. She's skinny, my husband is all fit and everything, but I've gained all this weight. And I remember this was last year, we went out somewhere to eat, and she brought out some TBT pictures when I used to be fit, running marathons about 2015, 2016. And this behind the couple spent 10 years, about 10 minutes asking, oh my God, Scholar, is this you? And I don't know why I let it. I should have shut it down because I'm not that kind of girl anyway. I show up for myself when I feel like I need to show up. And then the worst thing she did, she held my arm and she said, oh my God, look at this hand. And she's from my country. So saying it in English, it's very polite. But the way she said it in my dialect is actually very rude. Actually, very rude to the point where my husband now wanted to leave and wanted to deal with her. But I was like, you know what? Let's mind our business. So those are the 4 things where I've just come to discover that I let people treat or speak to me in a certain way and I don't confront them. The biggest list here is what I tell myself. And some of the things I tell myself is that I'm a failure because I'm not consistent. Before the program, I'm the girl who would start the fitness journey and then fail on Wednesday and then not celebrate that Monday and Tuesday I've been okay. And then I say, okay, I'll start again on Monday. And then Thursday through Sunday, it's emotional eating again, which piles up in regards to that. And all these things have made me lose my confidence. It's made me lose my focus and even my discipline in being there for certain things. And then I've just realized is that I compare myself a lot and I use a lot of excuses. In life, people go to school, people get married and all that stuff. And so I shouldn't use the excuses of life as to why I'm gaining weight. I went back to school to do my MBA, and then I started sleeping very late at 2 a.m., doing my homeworks and snacking. And nowadays, when I talk about my fat journey, I say, oh, it's because I was in school. But being in school is a beautiful thing for me. I should not blame my weight on that. So, and also being in this program, I think I realized like the first 3 weeks when I just used to be number 9, I just used to say, oh, I'm pregnant. But I had to remind myself, I joined the program because of Danielle, watching you and Danielle on YouTube, and Danielle lost 74 pounds. So I was like, oh my God, what's the difference between me and Danielle? So I have a lot of negative self-talk on myself, things that I wouldn't tell other people. I tell myself I'm a failure and I can't make it. But most importantly, I think I need to forgive me before I even forgive anyone else and break bread. But that's all I came up with, but there's a lot to dig in.
And so for me, growing up, what was really difficult is that I was very skinny, but I had these saddlebags. And so when everybody was wearing leggings and everything, and I was like 110 pounds, then I had these saddlebags that kind of sat off my thighs. And so when it was time to wear leggings, it got very interesting because everyone would talk about how skinny I was. And that was really, life until I got to college. And I came to an HBCU, and not having grown up eating Southern food, I came to college and I gained my freshman 15. I gained my roommate's freshman 15, somebody down the halls. And so I went from 110 pounds coming into college, and I looked up and all of a sudden I was at probably about 135 pounds, and held steady there pretty much. And, you know, it's the thing that you notice, but you don't really notice until someone says something about it. And it was 1995 when it probably really mattered to me. In high school, my high school boyfriend was half Korean, half Black. So he was a bigger guy, and I was, you know, on the thinner side. And then when I got to college, that was where I really started dating, but didn't date much, just a little bit. And so wasn't really a big deal. And in 1995, I was online for my sorority, and there were 70 of us, and they separated us into the little small petite people and then everybody else. And so we were put in this group, and every night we would come together, we had to sing the song, and it would be no more chicken and no more pies, gonna tighten my stomach and thin my thighs. And so we would march in place, and we would have to sing that every night. When I got put in this group, I was like, okay, why am I in the group? I know I picked up these freshmen 15. I was now a sophomore. I was like, but you know, my clothes still fit okay, but this is where I was. And, you know, all these years later, still when we're together, now it's become a talking point and something we talk about. But I look at those big sisters and I'm like, you know, that was something that somebody thought was really funny and entertaining to them. But for us as, you know, young co-eds, really tough, because you start learning that it's, you know, this is how people see me, which was different than how I may have seen myself. And when I got to law school is probably when my weight really picked up. I had a roommate, and I used to wear her clothes all the time, and I realized I was growing into her clothes. And not sure why, what changed, what happened, other than the stressors of law school, which get very interesting in and of themselves. But I was thankful for her, because as my wardrobe got too small, her wardrobe worked for me. And I realized at that time that I was surrounding myself with people who looked more like my current me, as opposed to maybe how I felt about myself or what I needed to look like. But it wasn't until I came home before my wedding, and I ran into my husband's, at the time, my fiance's mother, and I walked in the house, and she said, before she said, hey, she said, you look like you gained some weight. And I was like, oh, okay. And, you know, I mean, there's not much you can say at that point to your future, you know, excuse me, his grandmother, not my mother-in-law, grandmother. And wasn't much for me to say. It's probably the third time I'd ever seen her. We dated halfway through college. And I was like, you know what? I sure did. You know, I picked up those pounds when I was out there in Iowa, and, you know, just went with it. And she herself was, you know, a thicker lady, but, you know, it doesn't make you feel any better when you're trying to make a good impression on the family, and you're looking at yourself and wondering, okay, is this what they see of me? As opposed to, you know, the person I felt on the inside. Because for me, my body was just growing with me, even though I noticed that I had started having to shop more at Lane Bryant than shopping at the stores I might have liked to shop at. So it became one of those things for me of trying to figure out how to solve the problem. But I had convinced myself that half a cupcake would not do much harm if I ate half today and then half tomorrow. And so I would tell myself that all the time. I would also tell myself that it happened overnight. And so I was convinced that if it happened overnight, I could fix the problem overnight, except that didn't work. Then I decided I would just get lost in my schoolwork. So then I stopped working out completely because nothing was changing. So I figured, why work out? And again, I had people around me that for the most part didn't make comments about my weight, but you kind of felt some kind of way. When my law school classmate, loved her to death, we would get ready to go work out, and she'd say, oh, I got to go get my outfit. And I was like, okay, I just want to put on some clothes that fit and go stretch. And she's got the Nike outfit and the Nike shoes. And I would look and I'm like, okay, so these subliminal messages tell me that, yeah, you know what? You won't be that person in the room. People won't really look at you. They're going to look at everybody else. But come on, let's go together. And I was like, all right. So I got to a point where I just got over it. I figured out that this might be who I was destined to be at that point. So kept surrounding myself for the most of the time with people who were my size or bigger than me, so that I was, you know, kind of birds of a feather. So I didn't have to worry about people talking about me. But then I realized that, you know, I might be this size forever. it was when a doctor said to me, one, you're going to probably need to go through IVF to conceive. And when we had moved to California, I only had one tube blocked. So there was still a chance of us having a child naturally. And then during the 5 years we were there, I put on probably another 25, 30 pounds and had a Black female doctor. And she said, you know, I'd love to tell you something different. She was like, but I just don't see it. And so that kind of stifled our journey. And thankful for the husband that I have, but during the same time, he was putting on weight. So, you know, we'd make that run late at night and we'd go get something. We'd look at each other like, oh, this is great. But in that denial phase. And so I would have people say to me, "Ooh, you're a thick sister." Didn't realize that probably just meant I was really fluffy, to use your word, Carmen. But, you know, thick sister, you know, it is what it is. I'd walk into stores and people would say, "We don't have anything in your size." Hadn't really been in the store, but they'd look at me and say, "You know, we don't have things in your size." I've always been hippie with my saddlebag, so my bottom half was always heavier. When I run into people, sometimes at church, you know, people will say, "Oh, did you gain weight since the last time I saw you?" You know, it's amazing the things that people will say. Instead of saying, "Hi, how are you doing?" It's always something, you know, and I figure those people might be socially awkward, but they're not always thinking about the impact that it can have. It was probably, my son was probably 4 years old and I was at work. I've worked at HBCU most of my career, a little bit at PWI. And I ran into one of the cafeteria workers, someone I talked to all the time. And she said, "Oh, is that your grandson?" And I looked and I was like, I know she's seen me with him before. And I come in here all the time. Do I really look like I'm his grandmother? And I went home and I cried. I was like, okay, I've either gained weight, something changed in my face, I look old or something. I was still in my 30s. I was like, wow. And it's very hurtful, you know, for people to look at you and see something that you don't see and realizing that you need to try and do something about it. But being honest that not consistently doing things about it. So, you know, my list goes back to really probably the last 20 years, but more so the last 12 years since my son was born, and trying to figure out how to navigate this. I have been at the same weight, give or take 10 pounds for the better part of the last 12 years. So, you know, unfortunately or fortunately, people I see all the time are used to seeing me this size, and people I haven't seen in a long time, when I see them, they are surprised and usually find their way to making a comment about it. So I'm committed to doing the work to make sure that this list is in the past and can stay there.
I guess since we're being totally honest, I would say that when I was about 7 or 8, my mom fed us really healthy food, but didn't really explain why. Now I get it. If she gave us sugar, we would all be hyper. But so I just kind of started obsessing about other people's lunch and stuff. And if trick-or-treating, she would hide the candy on the fridge and I would almost kill myself trying to get a piece of candy. We would get one selection a day, which is fine. It's not her fault. But I just became obsessed. So at school, at lunch, I would have my little dry peanut butter sandwich with no jelly on Roman meal bread. And I would ask this person or that person, "Can I have a bite? Can I have a bite? Can I have a bite?" And so suddenly I was called the beggar. And then like at home, I would try and sneak whatever I could out of the fridge. And my mom said that I was greedy. So I'm a beggar and I'm greedy. And then in high school, my first loser idiot boyfriend said I was fat at like 120 pounds, said I was fat. So I was fat, beggar, greedy, fat. Then Oprah went on OptiFast. So I tried that. I lost a bunch of weight, but then I was obsessed with like food on the floor. I would have eaten anything. I was so hungry. And then I gained it all back. So I was a failure. And then when I joined the military, when I was 20, they had a weight limit. And for some reason, I gained every bit except for 1 pound of the limit. And the Marine Corps had a different limit than the Navy. So when the lady weighed me, she said, you're overweight. You don't get to join the Navy. And I said, no, you're looking at the Marine Corps' limit, not the Navy. And she checked and she goes, oh, but still, you've gained like 20 pounds in 3 months. You're disgusting. You know, she just was like so disgusted. So I was like, why am I so rebellious? So I'm all these things. I'm rebellious. I'm a failure. I'm greedy. I'm a beggar. And then I think once I had my daughter, I just didn't care. She was like, Mommy, why does your stomach feel like grandma's waterbed? And she was like 4 years old, and I thought it was cute. I actually didn't even have my feelings hurt. I was like, finally, I can just be this way. I can just be this way because I have a kid. And then with my son, I gained way more weight, and it's just been the same lose, gain, never ever healthily, never ever normally. So I guess my inner language at this point is, if I don't have high expectations of myself in regards to weight and fitness, then I won't be disappointed, because I have high expectations of myself in every other area: school, job, parenting, any other area. I have very high expectations of myself. I self-sabotage if I ever have success. Sometimes I feel like I don't deserve to be hot, you know, like you said, you wanted to be that blonde on the beach. I feel like it's too late for that, or it's inappropriate. I'm not quite sure. But I remember in my 20s, when my brother was out in San Diego with me, when I jogged on the beach, he said, you jog so slow. And I was like, well, that's just how I jog. And he's like, well, what are you so afraid of? He just stopped and said, what are you so afraid of? Like, why can't you push yourself? And so every time I exercise, I'm like, I'm slow. I can't push myself. I'm afraid to push myself. I have no idea why I say that. I would say it was so I don't get injured, but I was 20 some years old. I wasn't getting injured back then. It's just this block on being a badass, you know? I just can't break the code on being who I know I can be fitness wise. And that's about it.
So I started back when I got pregnant with my son. He's 15 now. So that was back in 2007. Actually, let me go back a little further. Like when I was raised, like my parents would always watch our weight. She was a paramedic, so you know they would like train them heavily. And if we ever came home like with a bag of chips, she would say, you know, watch your weight, watch your weight. So growing up, if we wanted to eat a bag of chips, we would kind of like just walk away from her so she couldn't see it, things like that. So then once I got pregnant with my son, I was young, and I was like 20 when I got pregnant with my son, and I was never around my aunt or my parents, anyone. So I would just be home. I would be in the house. I would be eating, and my diet was horrible. It was a ton of chips. And I picked up a ton of weight during that pregnancy. So that's when the change happened in my life. Prior to that, I was always in shape. And after I had my son, I remember just like I would be eating chips, and my ex-husband would say like, you're already big, put that down, and like, just go walking. And then I would like see him eating chips, and of course I would want it if I'm seeing it, and then that turned into me avoiding going around family. I would avoid going on outings. If we had a family event, I wouldn't go because I would have to get dressed. I would have to find something to wear. I couldn't fit none of the clothes, and I didn't want anyone to see how big I had gotten. So I felt like I kind of hid out for years. And then I moved out of state as well. So it was a lot easier to hide from family. And I remember one time I flew back into my hometown and I went to one of my uncles. I went to his house, and he was like 60 at the time. And he's one of those uncles who will say whatever comes to mind. And I hugged him and he was like, every time I see you, you get bigger and bigger. And I was like, wow, I just try to like cover it up, as if it didn't matter, but it stuck with me for all those years. So I haven't went back around him since then, just because I don't want him to say you've gotten bigger, you haven't lost the weight. And then what else? Also, there was another time, one of my brothers had actually came to see me, and this was his first time seeing me in years, because he travels a lot. And when he seen me, his eyes just lit up, and he was like, "Whoa, like what happened to you?" And I didn't know how to respond. I kind of just walked away, and I was embarrassed. And then what else? Oh, there was another time where I was in front of family again. And I had just told my ex-husband, like, you know what, if you see me eating something I shouldn't eat, just tell me, just take it away from me. But, or just let me know so I could just stop and put it down. But I guess I didn't really mean to say this to me in front of everyone else. So we were at a family dinner and I was eating cake. And he said, put that cake down. Why are you eating? You've already had a plate of food. And I felt like that was the worst experience of my life. Like I just ran out the front door and started crying. And so that's why this time when I became pregnant, I said to myself, like, I'm never gonna go through that. Like I felt like that pregnancy started everything, everything just started going downhill with weight. So this time I've been like overly determined, and that was part of the reason I searched for the program, and I knew I had to find help somewhere. So that's how I got here today. And I do just want to forgive those people. I feel like I've always avoided everyone. And on top of that, it came from me as well. I would always put myself down because I avoid going places. I avoid even going outside. And I really didn't pay attention to that until now while being in a program. I notice now I can get up, I'll go outside more. I'll even work out outside. I would have never done this before. So that's what caused mine.
Right. One of my biggest memories was from high school. I had tried out and made the cheerleading team, and I was so excited. And at my school, they own all the uniforms, so uniform day is a big rush to get like the cleanest, nicest uniform ever. And one of the girls said to me, "Well, you're not going to have a lot of competition for your size. There's going to be lots to choose from you." And that one kind of took a little of the shine off my big day, but I wasn't the smallest and I wasn't the biggest. I was somewhere in the middle, so that one hurt. And then my sisters growing up, I have two older sisters. One has always been like a size 2 and one's a size 4, and that's never been my reality. So growing up, they meant it as an absolute compliment, but their comment was, "You're never going to have hand-me-downs. You're always going to get new clothes." And what that said in my mind was, "You're never, ever going to be on our level." And the second part was, when we grew up, we weren't like rich or health or wealthy or any of that. So money was always, always an issue. So the second part of that was, "You're a drain on mom. And if you could just fit into our size, she wouldn't have to spend that money on you." And the third one, a big trip I took with my best friend was to Greece. We had, I had anyway, spent a lot of time working out and ready to spend some time on the beach in my swimsuit, and one of the Greek men, he came right up to me and he said, "I love your juicy melons. You are so plump." And I think he meant it as a compliment, but that is not how I took it. And I don't think I wore my swimsuit for the rest of that trip. And then my son, he absolutely didn't mean it. He was 2, he was 3, and he says, "Mommy, I love your bumpers," which is what he calls my stomach. Or he says, "Is there another baby in there?" It's just, he's not malicious in any way, but it just calls attention to that I have not lost a baby weight. So I think those are the big ones for me.
I'm a wreck. Like, I'm listening and I relate to everything that everyone has said. Except for being thin. Like, I've never. This was hard. And I probably have a degree in trying to cover shit up and pretending it's not there. So it was really challenging to revisit this stuff, because as much as I have worked on me, just like going through this stuff, it put me through it this week. And so like I said, I remember growing up having to just kind of like steel my nerves for having to be around family. Someone's always gonna have something to say. And like the way my mom grew up, like if you were smart, you were thin. And my mom wasn't even a big woman. When she was growing up, she was probably what today would be like a size 10 or 12, but like back then that was considered big. And then I remember distinctly being 10 years old and weighing 185 pounds, wearing a size 10. And like I was only 10 years, I was in the 4th grade, and I looked like somebody who was in college. So people tended to treat me like I was I was just a kid. And I remember my brother once telling me, Emily, you mentioned like you would ask for food. I didn't ask for food, but I never turned it down either. And I remember my brother telling me once, he was like, you don't always have to say yes. Like when somebody offers you food, you don't have to say yes. And I think from something you were talking about earlier about kind of breaking the agreement with yourself, I feel like that's something that has been so much a part of my identity, because like I said, I have always been fluffy. And to break the agreement with myself, and then like that I'm always going to be this way. I've been looking at like pictures. You know how like Facebook memories and like your Google memories will bring back like older pictures, and like I'm probably about 10 or 20 pounds above my lowest weight in my adult life, but like for the majority of my adult life, I have been morbidly obese, right? Because I'm tall, people are like, oh well, you wear it well and all that other stuff, but the girl with the cute face. or the question, are you still eating? So and it's a good bit from family, enough. I mean, probably for myself, I have allowed myself to kind of get complacent, and probably because on a level I don't feel like I deserve the body that I desire. So I have not been as consistent as I could or know that I can be. So that's all I have to share.
Where to start? First off, for all of you, I think the same thing. It took me some soul searching on this one. I grew up with a dad who said, we don't give a damn what anybody says about us, and I really took that to heart. So I've never really worried about what people said about me, unless they were people that I respected, like my wife. But to that same token, as I started, like, I went to high school athletic, college athletic, but I didn't know how to properly, nutrition wise, what to do. And I was just justified. I was burning it off with my athletics. But every 4 years, I would gain 5 to 10 pounds, and then I'd stay there for 3 or 4 years, and then boom, another 5 to 10. So I did this to myself more than what people did. But my mom, who I love dearly, would point out to me and my brothers, "Oh, did you gain weight or did you lose weight?" So you came in like, "Oh, you've lost weight, you look good." The next time you come in, "Oh, you've gained a few pounds, huh?" And I was literally at the, "Mom, if I wanted your opinion, I'd ask you. So just shut up. This is my life." And I started justifying not do the exercise, but not do the nutrition. And that's what I learned from this program. I was making up portion control. Like, portion was, I love this portion of food, so I'm going to eat as much portion as I can. And I hate this food, so don't even touch it. And that was kind of bad. So that the earliest I remember is the little, like, "Oh, you gain weight." I have a brother who's rail thin, has been all his entire life. And my younger brother is bigger than I am and wants to lose weight too. But so we've had this throughout the life, but then I'm my biggest enemy. So we went to San Diego, a few weeks ago, and I wouldn't go on the beach because I made a joke about it, but I used to go on the beach all the time when I lived in Florida. But now it's like, oh, I can't go on the beach because an activist is going to try to push me back in the ocean to save my life because I'm the beached whale. Or we can't go to SeaWorld because they're going to try to throw me back in the display, thinking that I escaped one of the orca display. And it's self-deprecating humor, but it's not healthy self-deprecating humor. And I have no idea when that started. I can't even tell you when I started using my "don't worry about what other people say, just do the right thing," when I started using that as an excuse for not doing the right thing, which was eating and exercising better and maintaining that level of fitness I had when I was in high school. Even as a police officer, I still to this day will go out there and say, there isn't a person on the street I'm afraid of. But in my head, I know, yeah, but I can't do it at the level that I should be able to do it at. So it's more bravado now, and like convincing, people like, yeah, don't mess with me because you won't win this one. But now I'm doing it through experience and bravado rather than my actual ability. So what made me turn this around was actually last Christmas when I think what was my first getting committed to it. My granddaughter, who I love to death, if there's an apple to my eye that's not my 2 kids, it's probably her. Laying down, falling asleep, and patting my stomach and saying, "Your tummy's like a soft pillow," and fell asleep. I was like, "Oh, that's so cute. This crap's got to end now." And so I started working out more consistently, and then Emily found out about this program and like, oh, okay, now I know what I'm missing. Because even then I was working out consistently but not losing. And now I'm learning what I was missing. So my granddaughter is the reason that I finally had to face the facts. Like, I did care to a degree what people think, but not when it's about something I believe in. So, and I gotta stop blurring those lines. So the person I have to forgive is me. I'm the one that did this harm to me, and I let other things guide that, but I made excuses myself. So I mean, after hearing some of the other stories, it doesn't seem that big, but to me, I know it's big. But I've heard some of the other stories, and God bless you all. I grew up in a very regimented, very controlled environment my entire life. I've always had a plan and, always been focused on the next down the road. Um, so I don't even remember if I had people stepping in the way like some of you did. And, so bless you for that. But you can probably tell by the amount I share on Marco Polo that I'm a big sharer. So, yeah, but that's it. But it was my granddaughter. When she patted me on the stomach, I still, like, cutest thing in the world. And also okay, this garbage is over now. Like, no more. I'm not having my other grandkids say the same thing. They're not going to.
When we were young, or when we were kids, I think the weight problem came perhaps in the fourth, fifth, sixth grade. So we left to Mexico to live in Monterrey. And I remember that we had a business over there. And so, we were very blessed as far as shoes and clothes and stuff, and school supplies. And I always had money, to spend. So and then I'm the kind of person that I have money, everybody has money. So there was a point where when I was leaving, well, I experienced my first bullying in Mexico, where they call you everything that is, from a ball to a barrel to pig, that's something that I remember a lot, the names that I was called. And after like 2 or 3 years, we came back to Houston. And there was a group of girls that they were always, I would always hang out with them, but there was one particular girl that was like, Iris, don't buy them nothing, don't do nothing for them, because they're not really your friends. They're just with you for, what you can give them or whatever. And she wrote me a letter, and I think I probably still have it. She wrote me a letter that those other friends used to always, make fun of me and call me like, it was a golden piggy bank. I guess because I would always buy them stuff. So that one was like a really big one. When I was in elementary, transitioning to junior high. So in junior high, we come back to Houston, and then as I had a cousin, I was in the 7th grade, and then I had a cousin, and that was my first day, and it was in between periods, so there was nobody in the hallway, and I was with my cousin. And then another guy, approached him, and he's like, "Hey, what's up? Is that your mom?" So I get that a lot, that I'm somebody's mom, and I wasn't even, I was like 12, 13 years old, then at one point I used to wear a lot of skirts and dresses when I thought I looked good, right? And then there was a point also in my life, where one of my cousins, she's like, "Stop wearing skirts because you look too short, they don't, in other words, they don't look good on you. So that was when she said that, I just completely stopped wearing skirts. Um, and just like everybody says, you're your own sabotage. That, I always say, I'm never gonna lose the weight. I'm never gonna be fit again. I'm never gonna do this. I'm never gonna do that. I'm not disciplined enough to do that. How can they do that? I'm never gonna be that. I'm never gonna be able to fit in something. And then I think this past 15 quinceañera, I was just like, no, I'm just gonna wear what I'm comfortable with. I stopped wearing black, and I said, no, I'm just gonna be myself. I'm just in the transition. wait,
Mhm.
wait. And then there's another 15 coming on in a year from now. And I was like, I'm gonna wait till that 15. So I'm gonna throw it down in that 15. So when I had my 2 kids afterwards, I had their dad, I had a surgery, an open surgery. Oh, I have a big open cut surgery on my stomach, which and then I had 2 drains. They opened me up because I had a gallstone stuck on the main bile duct of my liver, and it left me a big scar on my stomach. And he used to tell me that I was never gonna find anyone that was gonna love me, or because of that scar, or because of how I look or whatnot.
A gentleman that I used to work a part-time job when I was in my teen years. When it was my first, I think it was my first job. And I think I even really had a little bit of a crush on him, if I remember, and that I think that would hurt me more. But I had walked past him and he just glanced at me and he said, "Wow, you have the biggest legs ever that I've ever seen." And I had to, I don't know why I even asked him to repeat it, because I said, "What did you say?" And he repeated it again. And it just that really hurt. And that really stuck to me. Another one, in my teen years, I always heard others say that I'm a German Mennonite background. So I always heard people say that, oh, the Germans, Mennonites, they always have big legs, or they have big butts. They're big boned people. And when I heard that always crushed me. And so I just always thought that I would be a big boned person, and I kind of always walked in that, using that as an excuse. So I'm big boned and big boned. And so that really always discouraged me, because I thought I could never be petite, like a 6. I couldn't even imagine being a 6. I think I was obviously smaller when I was younger, but even then, I shouldn't say that, because when I was younger, I remember people always calling me that I was the chubby one out of me and my sisters. She was always the skinny one. I was the chubby one. Sorry, I'm gonna cry. Thought it would be a little bit easier. I was always told that because I'm Mennonite or big bone, that I walk heavy, and I could never understand how to walk quieter. And that was always something that it didn't matter what I did, somebody would always say, "But man, you can hear you coming into a room." That was, so my weight fluctuated up and down. And actually when I had my children, I lost a lot of weight, as I had my son as a cesarean, and then I had my daughter. And after that, I actually was between my son and my daughter, and I lost a lot of weight, and I was a smoker at that time. So I didn't want to quit smoking, because I thought smoking was making me be thin, and I was starting to feel good. And then I had my daughter, and of course I quit smoking so that my children would be healthy. And if things would go well with my weight, and I would back up and down. And then, sorry, in 2019 I got cancer. And I had to have a full hysterectomy. And November of 2019, and then it ran into the following year, and I couldn't exercise, and I couldn't do anything. And it really was a stumbling block for me, because I saw the weight just come. I lost my waist. I didn't have the curve. I didn't have a curve, I guess. And it was painful to, as I asked the doctors to help, because I was on medications and I just kept retaining inflammation and it was very unhealthy. And when it finally realized I couldn't even bend to tie my shoes, it was so hard. And so that's why I reached out to Carmen. I knew I wouldn't get this weight off. I never been so high in my weight before, so I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to work out and eat properly. So, and my sizes were getting bigger, and those memories would come back because my legs obviously got bigger again and my waistline got bigger and I was out of breath. My blood pressure would go up and I wasn't healthy. And when I asked the doctor, how can I lose the weight? She just said that it most likely won't come off because people that have hysterectomies will not be able to lose as much weight. And if you're on hormone replacement, you won't be able to lose the weight. You just got to maintain where you are. But I am very happy that I'm off the medication and I'm off all the hormone replacement therapy, and I've never felt better in this program, but I always end up self-sabotaging myself and thinking, I think Iris said it, you believe in others, but you don't believe that I can do it, that I can get past this point. So you self-sabotage yourself, that you'll never have the success or you'll never be able to be thin again. And, or I don't deserve the body. I'm too old. That was one of the things when I had my hysterectomy, I actually was eating because I thought I wouldn't be normal again and never have a body. And I have this scar to remind me, but I call it my ugly scar, but I'm learning to accept that I can be thin again. And this program is helping me to be able to get rid of those self-sabotaging feelings towards myself.
On behalf of friends, exes, family, on behalf of yourself, for saying rude things, ignorant things, for making comparisons, for trying to make you the butt of the joke to make them feel better, for making fun of your appearance or how you used to be compared to how you were in any way, for any way that I've made you feel like you were less than because of the size of an arm, the size of a leg, the size of a muscle or lack thereof, and that your worth depended on how you looked, please forgive me.
I do. I forgive myself and I forgive everyone, and I commit as the memories come up, because this is something that I commit to deal with through the program. I commit to forgive.
I do, and I start the process to forgive myself as well, everyone else, being able to let it go, Hakuna Matata, leave the past behind you as much as you can and not think about it. So Carmen, I do forgive, and I'm ready to move forward.
I do. I forgive you and all of them and myself. Thank you.
I forgive each and every one of you from the bottom of my heart. And I'm gonna be the biggest comeback.
I do. I forgive you and everyone.
I do forgive you and all the people. Thank you for this exercise.
I'm going to forgive myself. And I do forgive myself. Now I'm going to learn to keep forgiving myself until that becomes a habit.
Forgive you and all the others. Thank you.
There we are. appreciated, and I'm going to listen to my, there it goes. Good morning, checking in.